Okay, so I don't really know what this is going to be about, but this is my Predator review. I'm just going to talk about why I love this movie for probably 20, 30 minutes to an hour. So brace yourselves. This is one of my all time favorite movies. And basically, I love it on many levels. On one level, it's a cool action flick. On another level, it's a horror movie. On another level, it's a horror movie where it's like a slasher film where Arnold Schwarzenegger plays the last girl, and all of the fucking muscle men in this play the girls in the slasher film, and the predator is the slasher. I I love this just because it is this like mix of shit. And it's like one of the best action movies ever on top of it. And then there's like the fact that like in reality, the predator, this is a thing that exists. I guarantee you. I guarantee you it exists because I exist. And like I like to hunt, but I'm not really interested in hunting animals. I only want to hunt things that have the exact same capabilities as me or higher and can shoot back. The most dangerous game. And if I think this way, and I am in a modern society, there has to be some alien world out there where there's a bunch of us, and eventually, there's nothing left to hunt on our planet. So we start looking for other shit to hunt. And eventually, either you find humans or you find something else. But there's somewhere in the galaxy, something like this is probably happening. It's just there's so many fucking planets. You know, what are the odds that it's not? I guess is what I'm saying. And I think that's the coolest part about this movie to me is that it has that level of realism to it that like this could happen. This is a thing that this could have happened and we never would have known about it. I'm not saying it did, like not on this planet anyway. What I am saying is like it is a cool concept of a fucking movie because of this. And then you have Arnold in his prime being a like sexy Germanic god, half naked, covered in mud, fighting a monster. Not that I'm into that. I totally am into that. Uh, this movie is so awesome. The fucking "I don't have time to bleed" line and the initial gunfight, the whole initial opening of this movie. That's where we should start this. The opening of this movie is like the best Vietnam movie ever. Like it's like this post-Vietnam special forces mission to go do some CIA shit, and like it's a very cool scenario that they set up, and they're being tricked in. And Carl Weathers is in it, and Carl Weathers is their CIA man, and he's like all muscled up because he's Carl Weathers in the '80s, and the whole fucking black arm, white arm meeting together. Fucking like if there's anything that gives me hope for the like racism on this planet, it's all of the fuckers I've seen on Instagram that are like gunfighters, infantrymen, ne'er do wells, whatever, that post that image in relation to race relations. And it's like, fuck it, dude. Let's just lift and shoot guns and fuck the government. I don't give a fuck what color you are. This is how we should be. I guess this is why I'm talking about Predator. This is why I'm like, this isn't necessarily a Predator review. Like there's several movies that I really, really love that I watch on repeat because I love them. And this is one of them. And the reasons why I love this movie are complex. And like we could do the same thing on Apocalypse Now. We could do the same thing on Platoon. And we're going to do those in the future. But for now, Predator is this epic journey into the way of the warrior. That's what I would call it. A lot of people don't understand parts of this movie. One second, I have to cough. So when Sonny, the big Indian dude, drops his gun, drops his equipment, pulls his knife out and cuts his chest and fights that thing to the death on a log. I've heard so many people talk about this movie and not understand what's going on. Like, that's so stupid. I wouldn't give up my gun. Blah, blah, blah. And Sonny has figured out what's going on. Sonny's figured out that whatever's hunting them, it has the tech advantage. And Sonny also knows that if he's going to go out like a bitch, he's going to go out like a bitch who's a warrior. And that means no armor, no equipment, no modern weapons. Steel and flesh against steel and flesh. And the Predator instantly knows what is going on. He respects this in him. He respects that he's like, fuck you. We're gonna knife fight to the death. That is what Sonny did. It's one of the most admirable scenes in all of fucking movie history, and they don't even show the fight. And I'm glad they don't show the fight, because that fight would have been epic. I guarantee you that fight went on for 20 or 30 minutes probably. Like, think about it. How long was that from then until the Predator showed back up chasing them? What Sonny did was give Arnold time. This is a good death. There's a lot of good deaths in this. There's a lot of bad deaths in this too. Like, the assault on the compound is amazing. So many people die, but like, in reality, that whole thing has this bittersweet taste in its mouth to me, because none of those people would have been killed had those people actually known why they were supposed to be there. That mission wouldn't have even fucking happened had they actually known. So you're watching this like mass chaotic destruction of death or whatever, and then at the end of it, you figure out that they basically just massacred a bunch of innocent people that were fighting the government. I guess that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is that there were fucking Russian people there training those people. So it's a complex issue. But like, this is the nature of this movie. It gets the details right. It has Russian advisors in Central and South America doing this shit because they were, and they would have been. Okay? Just like there are American and British advisors in the Ukraine right now. Same way that there are Russians in Syria. This is just kind of the nature of modern warfare. Anyway, the whole truck scene with the satchel charge is an interesting way to go. Let's see what else. I love the Predator picking up the scorpion that Sonny kills after the ambush. It's this. He does like the laugh, and you hear the Predator's voice, and you hear that. It's just classic. It's cool, and you see like the scorpion's imprint on his hand, and I think this is the director giving us glimpses into what this thing is that's hunting them for the first time. And the Predator is wondering why he didn't take his trophy. The Predator's trying to understand these things. And like, this is the thing that I think is really cool. Whoever wrote this little bit into it, that the Predator's coming up and picking up that dead scorpion and wondering why it's dead. Why would you kill it if you weren't going to take a trophy from it? And like, this is some very hippy dippy bullshit, but like, what if there are aliens that think this way? Like, I think that this whole movie is a big what if to me, and I like the what if that it presents because it's a very, very realistic of what some of these aliens on this planet could be. And by that I mean, like, we keep seeing spaceships and shit, right? And we keep hearing about, weird cow shit, cattle mutilations. What if all of that is a race of aliens like these things that just come here to hunt? And, if they're just in the mood for a barbecue, they kill a cow and cut the brain and eye out because for whatever reason, that's what they like. Maybe there's other times they come here and hunt tigers or hunt men or hunt whatever. Like, honestly, the most interesting game to hunt on this planet is man. I think there's got to be someone that comes here to do this. It would be cool. And my thing is that's the whole the what if of this that's cool to me is the government could be hiding this from you. Like Predator 2 is even crazier. Like what if there's one running around New York City and like there's weird murders and shit that happen in big cities. What if some of the weird murders and shit are something like this? It's crazy to think about. Let's move forward in the movie from the scorpion. I think is it the radio dude is the next one to die. I think I forget how he dies. Obviously, wasn't very good. I don't even think his death was on camera. And didn't he just disappear? They find his body. I think it was something like that. And then there's the whole Jesse Ventura dying scene, which is pretty epic with the fucking minigun just emptying in the fucking woods. And you get to see the predator's blood. It gets winged in the leg. They used Siloam sticks broken open for the predator's blood in both movies. It's a cool, like, behind the scenes special effects note that I just think is dope. Like, that is something that, like, if you wanted to make a Predator movie, you could do this really cheap if you never showed the Predator. Like, all you need is some guys in tactical gear, some Siloam sticks, and a guy in a red suit that you can fucking, you know, do the invisible trick on, which you can do on any laptop now. And you could have people fighting an invisible monster or whatever, and then have like a helmet and some claws and shit for some sort of like close up struggle shit once you can see it. And then just have a shitload of Siloam blood and a guy in a costume and just go with it. I would love to try to make a Predator movie. They're making a Predator movie right now that actually looks pretty dope. It's all Native American-y. It's very Rambo Last Blood meets fucking The Revenant, it looks like. I'm very, very interested to see that. My favorite part of this movie is when they're defending Blaine's body. Blaine is Jesse Ventura's character. Um, the Predator wants his trophy. This is the cool part of this too. Is like he's not going to kill all of them. He's just there to get the trophy. He wants to hunt them all one by one. He's not in this to just kill them all. He's hunting them. This is a big difference. And like this is the thing I think a lot of people don't get about combat is if you are armed, equipped, and trained properly, you are hunting. That's what special forces do. Uh, the thing that we've been doing in Iraq and Afghanistan for years now is we've been being the predator. We go in at night with night vision. We knock out the fucking electric grid in the area. And we are CQB experts, right? Like, that's what the United States military is really good at, really, if you think about it. And especially special forces now, after all this fucking, like, snatch and grab shit we've been doing. I think that's pretty dope. But my favorite part of this movie is them defending his body because they start doing Boy Scout shit. And, like, that's the key with the Predator. And I love that that's the key with the Predator, because it's the key with any technologically advanced opponent. If someone is using technology against you, you can't fight back against them with technology. You will always lose that fight. This is why Sonny ditched his armor, ditched his rifle, and pulled out a blade, challenged him to a knife fight. Because that's one way to go. The other way to go is some Boy Scout shit. Building shit out of wood, building traps, building whatever. And, like, if you notice, Sonny gets a good death. Arnold gets to live. Which is better? I'll leave that for you to decide, but, like, I think it's decidedly better to win. And, like, as badass as challenging him to a knife fight is, I'd rather challenge him to a knife fight and have him step on something that impales him or something, you know? Like, this whole movie presents a very logical argument of how you fight a technologically superior opponent. And I think one of the best ways that you can do this is to appeal to their code of honor. And the other best way you can do this is by going so primitive that they would never think to do it. So Arnold making fucking weighted traps with spikes on them and shit. That's something that this thing would never fucking think to do in a million years. It's been so removed from shit like that. And, like, maybe if it was more experienced, it would know that people make such things. But that's the thing, is I think in this movie, this hunter had never been here before. And, like, he didn't really know who he was going to run into. And this is kind of the way fights are. You think you're fucking badass, right? Well, in the fight, you find that out. The only thing that's badass is surviving. And I love the Boy Scout shit in this movie because of that. And it's a very survival heavy movie. It's a combat survival evasion monster movie. And I love that eventually that thing comes in through all the tripwires and gets Blaine's body. Slips right out. Now that I think about it, that was what it was. They put up tripwires first, and then they did the Boy Scout shit. And that was like their next, like, they camped for the night and did a defensive perimeter thing and put up all that Boy Scout shit. Well, what else do we need to talk about? That pretty much finishes off Boy Scout shit, and that finishes off the last of the deaths that I wanted to talk about until Arnold, really. Although I will mention that the chick never picked up a gun, and therefore the Predator didn't kill her. But that was interesting. I think had Arnold not had a gun, he still would have been trying to kill him. That's my theory. So that brings us to, Arnold versus the Predator, right? This was always like one of my favorite scenes ever, because you see him being creative. And like, this is the thing that separates the special forces operator from your average soldier, really. It's the ability to creatively think while people are trying to kill you. That's what they're looking for and weeding out in the training. They want people that think well under stress, and they want people that do this sort of stuff. And I've never seen a better example of it on screen than Arnold taking some 40 millimeter grenades and a knife and killing this fucking thing. If you've never seen this fight, it's a great fight. Arnold covered in mud with the knife and two 40 millimeter grenades, making a bow and arrow set to fucking spin up the 40 millimeter grenades so they can detonate, which is really pretty dope. If you didn't realize that's what was going on in that scene, the 40 millimeter grenades that he had are standard high explosive U.S. military issue. The reason he put them on an arrow is because arrows spin, and those are armed by a gyroscope inside them that spins. So a 40 millimeter grenade has to go through, I think it's 2 or 3 rotations before it arms, and then it explodes on contact. So it's one of those things that if you know how your weapons work, you can still use those grenades. If you know how to make bows and arrows, you can adapt that into making various weapons if you have other shit. But you can tip an arrow with anything. Fucking a shard of glass, poison, fucking a HE round. This is the stuff that makes me really love this movie. You see this like survival bushcraft knowledge shit applied to fighting aliens. That's just fucking badass. It just is. And the whole giant spiky log of doom and all that shit. Bravo. Like this is like some classic like deer and bear traps and shit. Like, I don't know who was the advisor on this movie for the jungle shit, but whoever they were a survival expert, and they knew about these old traps, and they had him do these. I don't know how else they could have been written into the movie. And the best part of this movie to me is, as any good hunter does, if the prey can kill you, it still doesn't win, because you're carrying a giant bomb. It's one of those moments, right? Like, I love that he fucking nukes himself. Rather than be taken alive or killed by something else, he sets off a small nuclear device attached to his wrist. That's stunning. I love it. Like, when I see the Predator, I want to kill him and take his shit. That's what I want. Like, I want his fucking thermal vision. I want his fucking weapons. I want that cloaking device. And some of this stuff you can go buy. There's heads up thermal. I've worn it. It was cool. I've even had lasers mounted to guns that were triangular in shape. That's also dope. So if you have never seen Predator, go watch it. It's full of goodness. I highly recommend this movie. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. This is a movie that is outside of top 5s and top 10s for me. This is on the list of movies that I rewatch all the time, like Red Dawn, Apocalypse Now, Platoon, this movie, True Grit, Jeremiah Johnson. And like, if you haven't seen any of those movies I just mentioned, you should go watch them. Thanks for watching.